afternoon from wherever you might be getting our signal from or watching this special World Cup discussions from. This is LBD Sports. I am Kasim Oscar, and it is 26th of November 2022, day 6 of the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Before we proceed, it is confirmed that host nation Qatar are out after failing to win 2 of their 4 games out of 3 in the group stages. Yesterday they were defeated by African champions, that is Senegal, 3-1. That brings their confirmation of crashing out of the competition. Joining me here today in this special discussion is a senior sport commentator, Lamin FS Sane. Lamin FS Sane will take us through to some talking points so far in the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Mr. Sane, thank you very much for honoring our invitation.
Thank you.
Welcome to the platform.
Well, thank you very much, Oscar, like you said, and it is an honor for me to be part of this platform that I've also been a big fan of the LBD Sports, and it's a pleasure to be once again here. Greetings to your viewers that are also following us right now. And it's a pleasure once again to be on this discussion platform to talk about the World Cup and many issues surrounding the World Cup, because we knew there are so many things to be discussed about this year's World Cup. So it's a pleasure to be on this platform.
Thank you very much, Lamin. Let's start with the host nation themselves, Qatar, the first country, the smallest country to host the prestigious football competition. Qatar, some say, is very small, is hot. They become the first team to host the country, but they failed to win. And now it is confirmed that Qatar cannot continue playing in the World Cup after being defeated in 2 of their first 2 games.
Yeah, just like you said, I think for Qatar, one might say the best thing that they won from this 2022 World Cup is the bid that they have won to host this year's World Cup. And I think the business side of it is also, I don't think it will be highly rated as many other countries perhaps when they host this particular World Cup. So to me, I believe Qatar just needed some recognition from the world of football, and to also be able to have that chance to sell out or show out their football quality and show out their players as well. But is that paying for them in this year's league, which we have not seen as of now? Because after, as you said, just 2 games, they also have a record of being the first team to host a World Cup and lost 2 consecutive games. I think, like I said, business sector, for them to host this year's World Cup, there has been so much criticism surrounding their bid and winning the World Cup itself to host in Qatar. But the beauty nation of Qatar has enjoyed having the league in their home. But obviously, when it comes to the footballing context, I don't think many would have expected Qatar to even go further to win the league. Even before the starting of this year's league, people have been talking about the fact that, yes, Xavi Hernandez of Barcelona have one time been coaching in the Qatar league, and he has also given at least a little bit appetite of the Qatar football by having that Al Sadd team and trying to put very quality players together playing beautiful football. But personally, I presume the fact that Qatar would have not even make it to the quarterfinal, suppose they were able to get out of their group to go into the knockout stages. So obviously, like you said, many will be surprised, but I personally am not surprised to see Qatar being the first team to be confirmed out of this year's league in their host nation as Qatar.
All right, still on the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Let's come to the other African continent. They are the biggest by size. Many people say Africa is bigger than any other continent participating in the competition, but they have least participants, 5 representatives from Africa. We have seen after the first round of matches, none of those 5 representatives won, but Ghana were able to score 2 goals against Portugal, which one can say it was a controversial way. It was not a genuine penalty for Ronaldo. But the second round of matches, African champion Senegal won. Let's talk about that. 3-1 against host nation. What significance is behind this win of Aliou Cissé and the Teranga Lions as champions of Africa?
Yeah, I think I've seen Senegal winning against Qatar. Like I said, looking at Qatar's first game against Ecuador, I believe that Senegal would be able to at least bounce back after that disappointment game against the Netherlands. And we've also seen, like you said, I think Aliou Cisse, have been doing tremendous good job with Senegal. And after winning the Cup of Nations, there has been a big hope on Senegal that they could be the surprise package of Africa this time around. But after they lost their first game, Kwasi talks around the team, the absence of Sadio Mane and other things have also disturbed them. The poor performance of Eduardo Mendy and other things in their first game, has also been so many issues that contaminated to end so that Senegal couldn't win their first game. But coming into their yesterday's game, like you said, against the host nation, Qatar, knowing very well that if they lose that game, it is done for them in this year's World Cup. But the Teranga Lions stood very firm, and I think they played very beautiful football. And they have that commitment, they have the determination. The team was compact, they played good football. Eduardo Mendy coming back to rectify his mistake in the earlier game, I think that also paid quite much dividend for Senegal. So it was quite a very good win for them, because suppose they also drew or they lost that game, we can say Senegal will repeat the 2018 disappointment. And you remember in 2018, Senegal became the first team to go home after that World Cup, and even Kalidou Koulibaly and the coach Cisse all mentioned the fact that it was a disappointment that they would never want to repeat again. So I think yesterday was a great stumbling and a stepping block for Senegal, winning 3-1. I think that's a very good margin for them. We now have to wait and see whether Senegal can still make it over Ecuador, because that's going to be the final group game for Senegal. Suppose Senegal get out of that group, then we'll talk about their prosperity of going further into the league.
Before coming to that game, what do Senegal needs to qualify? Let's still talk about Senegal in their yesterday's game against host nation, that is Qatar. We have seen their number 13, Iliman Ndiaye. Many describe him as the super sub. He was involved in their third goal, which Bamba Dieng scored. Looking at the way the goal was built up, the guy was just brilliant with the ball, dribble almost 2-3 players before he passes to the right flank, then get back the ball, cross it for Bamba Dieng to make it a 3-1 win for Senegal against Qatar. A young player tormenting, I can say, the World Cup.
Yeah, really, we've seen so many young players, and like you mentioned of him, he is such a promising talent for Senegal. This is why I want to believe that Aliou Cisse and the entourage, have now tried to get it a done business of Sadio Mane's absence in this year's league. Senegal should stand to the farm to ensure that the team is not about an individual. Yes, he is a star-man player, but the team is about other young prospect players that are coming. You talk about the Jatas that are also doing very well. You talk about Ismail Ashar, who is doing very well in the English league. They have a star-studded team. Who can forget about the Everton player, who has been doing very great. You talk about Crystal Palace. These are players who are still playing for the Senegal national team. Kalidou Koulibaly, who plays for Chelsea. So it's a star-studded team that Senegal are having right now. And I think the experience of these players that I mentioned, mixed up with these young talents that are rising up, Senegal could still continue to play the most beautiful football in the continent of Africa. Remember, they come out of a tough group in the African Cup of Nations, where they were starting slowly against Malawi, Zimbabwe, but later on in the quarterfinals, we've seen them did very beautiful football, up to the final where they won the African Cup of Nations. So coming into the league as champions, this is what we expect from the Senegalese team. We want to see the young prospect rising up to the occasion in Qatar.
Thank you very much, Lamin Sane, for those wonderful analysis. Still on the discussion here for the World Cup 2022, this is LBD Sports with Kasim Oscar alongside Lamin FS Sane. Away from Senegal, but before we leave Senegal, let's talk about Edouard Mendy. His performance against Holland in the first game was questionable, but we have seen him performing brilliantly well for Senegal yesterday. He made tremendous saves to keep the scoreline 2-1 or 2-0 or in favor of Senegal.
I think people need to know that football have to be a daily activity. Yeah. Football has to be a daily practice. Football is just like mathematics as a subject in in school, whereby you need a daily practice to get yourself used to the system. Edouard Mendy, if you could recall back in the Premier League when he get that injury, was it against Aston Villa? I think from that time, we've seen even in the Chelsea system of football, we've seen Kepa rising up to the occasion. So Kepa later on get to a very good start in the league, which resulted to, Edouard Eduardo Mendy having limited playing time before eventually Kepa also going down to the injury. So Eduardo started to pick up playing for Chelsea shortly before we come into the World Cup. So I believe the form is what is not there. So many people were talking that if I was Aliou Cisse after that hilarious misses in the first game, I would have just kept him in the bench. But I think Cisse knows very well that this man just need courage. This man just need what we call the form in the game to play. Eduardo is not a bad keeper. Remember, he's a very good player, and even the Europeans, Kasim, believe that football, goes with luck. We've seen Eduardo Mendy rise from nowhere to win the Champions League with Chelsea. We've seen him doing very brilliant.
From zero to hero.
From zero to a hero.
Because yesterday's saves, one of the saves he made in the game was described as world-class saves.
Absolutely. Those are the kinds of saves.
How will you describe Mendy and Aliou Cisse's style of football or management?
Phenomenal. They are quite phenomenal because I believe that Aliou is a coach who always believes in his players. Just like Gary Southgate in England. People talk about Maguire, people talk about Sterling, their lack of form, but he's still addicted to those players because he believes the quality in those players could come out at one point in time, at any time, and any time that comes in, it can win a game for them. Sterling have scored in the first game. We've seen him not having a good game in the last game that they played. So I think Aliou, his commitment to stick to Mendy is another good plan, because he believes that he has made a mistake, but from the mistake he can learn. And this is what we have seen in their yesterday's game. They have learned from that. And let the African people understand one thing, Oscar. That is, Senegal, among these teams that are representing us, Senegal is the least experienced team in this year's competition.
Really?
Really. Senegal, this is their third time they are coming into the World Cup. You talk about Ghana, who are making their fourth time in the World Cup. You talk about Morocco, who are making their fifth. You talk about Tunisia, who are making their fifth. And Cameroon is the most experienced team in this year's World Cup. This is their 8th World Cup. Senegal, their maiden World Cup was in 2002. And in that 2002, you remember, they made hilarious performances. This was a year where they have their best finish was a quarterfinal in that particular year in 2002. And from there, they have a best win against France, which they defeated France by 1-0. So I think it was only 2018 when Senegal has that disappointment, in the World Cup. But coming up after you can compete, you can see from 2002 to 2018 is almost about 3 World Cups that Senegal did not come. So we can say from 2018 after that disappointment.
They are among the African sides that make shock in the World Cup.
Shock in the World Cup?
I believe in 1990 or 1994 World Cup, Cameroon also shocked Argentina.
Yeah, this was in 1990.
1990 World Cup, a goal to nil. And we have seen this 2022, Saudi Arabia of all people, with an African winning coach, African Cup of Nations winning coach, Hervé Renard, shocking Argentina 2-1, ending their record of 36 games unbeaten.
Definitely. That was also an emotional game for me, Oscar. I think if I'm in love with football, I enjoy that game very well, where I've shown, Saudi Arabia making that historic win against Argentina of all people, with every player of Argentina that you talk about today, involved in that particular game. This tells us that, Oscar, that football is not about individual players, though individual players can make difference. But football is about commitment. Football is about collectiveness, and this is what have shown in the game. We have seen Hervé Renard with Ivory Coast. We have seen Hervé Renard, with Zambia when he became champions, and now he is doing very well with this team in the World Cup. So I think it is quite much important for us to learn from such kind of shocking games. Senegal could even make better shocking games if we go into the knockout stages. Suppose they are able to defeat Ecuador in this particular time. But one thing I'm also not complacent with is the fact that Africa is not being treated fairly. Why? Why? Simply because you talk about 54 countries in Africa, you talk about 55 recognized countries in Europe, and yet still the 55 recognized countries are gaining 13 slots in the World Cup. Europe is being represented by 13 teams in the World Cup, while Africa will only send in only 5 slots into the World Cup. So having that 5 slots is only Africa where we go through these notorious qualifiers rounds. We go into the preliminary. From the preliminary, you have to go to the qualifiers proper, playoffs here and there before you are able to come into this the World Cup. This is why we lose teams like, if you remember, Egypt. Even though they were consecutive World Cups winner, 3 times they won African Cup of Nations together consecutively. They were not represented in 2006. They were not represented in 2010. All this year, even though they were the champions of Africa.
And that period of success, Egypt rather gain in African football,
Exactly.
one can say should have merit them to play in the most
Exactly,
prestigious
because
league.
they were consecutive winners. You know, when Real Madrid won the
Three
Champions
times in
League
a
three
row.
times, it was all over the world. Everybody were talking because we knew how difficult it is to win a particular league 3 times consecutively. But with all that, Egypt were not able to qualify themselves. This year, we are not seeing Ivory Coast, even though many will dispute that Ivory Coast are losing their form that we knew from them. But they are a very good team we are not seeing. We are not seeing Algeria. We are not seeing the Nigeria, who also did very well in the previous league. You know, all these teams would have been, you know, having the merits, would have been deserved to be playing in the World Cup, suppose they are in the European continent. So I believe the number of representation that Africa is having.
The number is small.
It's small.
For you, if there is to be increment, how many slots do you want Africa to have?
I think Africa still need extra 5
To make it 10.
to make it 10.
If you have 10, can Africa win?
We can solely compete. If we have 10 slots in the World Cup, you know, these teams that I am naming you, that have some qualities, plus order that may be the surprising package. Who knows, maybe the Gambia could pop up at any time also to qualify.
Yeah.
And we know dividends sometimes can be turning. Miracle is also involved in football. So if Africa is having 10 slots in the World Cup, another thing that is also very, very much paramount in African football is the management, the poverty. Because after 2020 census per capita gross, you know, it is also recognized that out of 10 poorest countries in the world, 9 are all from Africa. So I think poverty is another thing that is affecting us.
Our football.
Because, you know, this is why you've seen, you know, lack of payment of players' wages, you know, either game bonuses not being paid. This has been resulting to many players trying to flee Africa and go and play for other nationalities. We've seen so many African players who are even playing against their own nations in this year's World Cup. So, I mean...
Example of it is Bril Ombolo, who scored against Cameroon, and he was born in Cameroon. He left Cameroon when he was at the age of 2 and naturalized in Switzerland.
No question over that. That would be because of frustration of poverty.
Meaning poverty is one of the reasons forcing this of our young best players naturalizing for European countries.
Exactly. Nothing other than poverty, I believe so. Because they would believe that playing for a European country, you will be a sort of documentation in Europe, and while you are in Europe, you will be able to remember these players that are playing there, they have their ancestors in Africa. So even if they make profit in Europe, they will be sending, Embolo will be feeding his family in Cameroon right now. Whatever that he gained in football is coming to Cameroon. We've seen George Weah's son playing for America. Whatever that he get, he will not forget about the people of Liberia. So, you know, so many African players. It's just now, but previously, you remember, when we go to a World Cup, you know, you see some players will even lost away from their camp, you know, after the World Cup. Why?
They will abscond.
Why? Because they believe that poverty is another problem. And because of this poverty, our management becomes problem. Scandals in African football is too much.
You are talking about a very important point.
Okay.
Because you mentioned the golden generation of Egypt when they were winning the African Cup of Nations 3 times in a row. Most of their players were playing in the Egyptian league, meaning they were well motivated, well paid. That's why they don't care these European clubs coming for them. Abu Tirika, Mohamed Zidane, Ahmed Hassan.
Exactly.
Ahmad Zaki, I think, is the only guy who was playing outside rather, or even play in the Premier League. Meaning, like, if we can tackle or maximize the poverty rate in our sports, we will achieve a lot.
Exactly. I believe so. That has to be from our mentality. That has to be from our political setup. That has to be from our own, you know, mismanagement that we are having in African football. Because I believe these oiling countries in Africa, like Nigeria and the Egyptians you talk about, you know, should lead examples, because at least they have the little bunch of the wealth that can at least, you know, create something in football in Africa. So I believe the fact that, you know, when we get that financial structure, we get that financial discipline also, I believe African football could be able to go to another level. Because the fact is that, you know, how many of our FAs are involved in money scandals? You know, how many of our FAs, how many of our top echelons executive members are involved in money scandals? And with all that, you know, African federations cannot still have correct playable pitches in their own country. African federations federations cannot even have a very standard leagues in their own country. We talk about the African leagues here. You talk about the Tunisians, you talk about the Moroccans, you talk about the Egyptians. Where are the West Africans? Where are the other part of the continent?
We will have a special program on that, inshallah. We will have a special program on that. But let's still continue with the World Cup. Britt Ombolo scored against Cameroon. He didn't celebrate it, but video went viral that his home in Cameroon was attacked. Fans should be educated to understand the game. It is because they don't understand the game, or they feel the pain inside them that they conceded a goal, someone who was born in Yaoundé, but fled the country when he was 2. But this is unwanted scenes in sports.
Yeah, I think I will put that across to another action that happens in the Gambia here. When I could remember when Gambian team was losing, I don't know against which particular team, and the whole fans turned to support that particular team, against our own national team at our own independent stadium here.
Yeah, frustration, frustrated fans.
Africans cannot understand that football is about win and lost. Africans cannot understand that football is a family, football is a job. Football is just like that, Kazim.
Yeah.
If I am, let's say I'm a carpenter, how many carpenters are there that would make golden beds for other people, go to their own home, whether you'll find that such a golden bed in their own home? How many tailors will try to sew you a very good shirt, but go to their own home, whether you'll find their daughters having that correct shirt? So it is the job. They have to understand that this is the job. The player fluid, yes, we understand the background issues, but why didn't he celebrate? That shows to you that blood is thicker than water. So we've seen players who move from a particular club to another club because of the bond, the understanding between them and the club. Even if they score against their old club or former club, they don't celebrate. Lack of celebration shows that he has that sympathy, that I have no other option to do but to put the ball behind the net. This is the job. So I don't think Embolo did anything wrong in scoring against Cameroon. And those who went to attack his home or whatsoever, I believe they lack the understanding of the fact that football is a fair play game, and we have to understand it from now. Africans have to start building the mentality of the fact that your own player, your own son can score against you. Imagine if Liberia were in this World Cup and Team Weah is playing for America and he score against Liberia in front of his own father as a president. And what will happen?
He won't celebrate.
He won't celebrate. So
let's talk about Cameroon chances in that particular game against Switzerland. Many said Cameroon should have opened the scoring or break the deadlock, but it was unfortunate they couldn't score. And we have seen some of the changes the coach made, that is Rigobert Song, former captain of the Indomitable Lions. We have been criticized that you are trailing 1-0, instead of reinforce your attack, he reduced the attack, and just like changes of fire for fire.
Yeah, he was like calling on the oppositions to come on him.
Yes.
Because that is more easier. Football is about fast thinking game. You call it FTG. You have to think faster than what is happening. I think, like you said, once he was trailing by 1-0, African teams, all we need to do is, the fact is that when we score, we always sit back to defend. When we are scored, we always want to still sit back and defend. So, and we have to understand that football, you start, the best way to defend is to attack your opponent. So I think Rigobert Song, to me, yes, they were playing very beautiful football, and in fact, I was having the hope that Cameroon would have been the first team to score goals in this year's World Cup. But I mean, at the end of the day, his changes paid dividend. But this is what is also affecting many African teams in this particular World Cup in Qatar. That is, we don't have natural finishers. We don't have people that are clinical in front of the goal post. We play beautiful football, but finishing is always a problem. I thank Ghana for their, international recruitment that they have done. Yeah. We've seen them brought in some players that came in, Tariq Lamptey, we've seen,
Mohamed Salisu,
is also there. We've also seen Thomas Partey. So it's a combination of young star-studded players. But who is going to be the natural finisher?
And the William brothers.
Yes.
The one is representing Spain. The other one is
William. He's also doing very well. So I think, Rigobert Song made a mistake in that particular game by trying to retrieve from attacking to defending. And by defending, he welcomes the pressure on himself. And this is why Cameroon went sinking from that particular game. Otherwise, Cameroon would have also stand out in that particular. They could have equalized at any moment in that particular game.
Okay, let's talk about the two North African sides before we get to Ghana. Both Tunisia and Morocco were also unable to win and score a goal in their first matches.
Exactly, like you said, Tunisia, I think, we've also seen
2004 African champions.
We've seen them sometime in the game. They will try to bring Wabi Kasri. That tries to tell you that the frustration, the lack of belief in their young, talented players is always a problem. But if you look at Tunisia very well, I think they are a team also that knocks the ball. They are the Africans, Arsenal, the Africans tiki-taka football. I think I'm in love with the way they play. Other than Egypt, I think Tunisia are playing very beautiful football. But still, we're going back to our normal point. That's what we're talking about. We lack the clinical finishers in that particular game as well. Look at today in their game. They did very well, but after just that glancing header from Australia, wow, Tunisia were all dead. The problem was it only come in the latter part of the game when they started knocking long balls and going out to try to look for an equalizer. So I think obviously, Tunisia failure to score a goal to me is down to their own tactic. It's down to their own system of football that they are exploring this particular time. Africans always try to sit back.
Two games without a goal.
It means it's done for them. It's done for them. That is another team. That African team that we also said goodbye to the World Cup. Because I believe that
if Qatar say
in
goodbye,
their final game,
they are probably one of the first African sides to say goodbye.
Exactly.
A defeat and a draw.
Is only 1 point.
Going into the last match.
Exactly. Because if you look at them going into the last match, the question is, can they defeat France? That's another thing, right? Because this is a very tight group. We know that France will play in Denmark. Whatever the results might be in that particular game,
France will still, the holders, champions will still
even
want
if
to
France
finish
win that game, they want to finish
profile.
100%. So they will not just come in that game and say, wow, 6 points, we are qualified, we have to sit back and just look at the way Tunisia are going to play. No.
Their chances of qualifying is not in their own hands.
France realized that bigger guns in this year's World Cup are having shock. Germany have a shock. Argentina have a shock. Maybe Portugal were almost slightly going to a shock because we were not happy of the way they played in their last game after getting that shocking 2 goals from Ghana. So obviously every bigger team in Europe right now is learning from the lesson of Germany and Argentina. So I believe France will not just let themselves. This is why I say it is all over for Tunisia.
Ghana, Portugal, 3-2. First half was 0-0. It was a well-contested first half, one can say. Second half, Ronaldo from the penalty spot in a controversial. Many said it was not a deserved penalty.
Yeah.
What's your take on the penalty and the game overall itself?
On the penalty first, I believe this has led to even the Football Association, Coaches Football Association, have filed a report to FIFA asking them for clearance on the way the penalties have been awarded, what merits it to be called a penalty and what doesn't merit. Because we have seen that touch on Ronaldo, whether it is a touch or not a touch, in fact, it is also a debate. But Ronaldo, you could feel it from him that he has been inviting a slight touch from him. When VAR started coming in, Kasim, even Ronaldo himself was involved in such kind of a slight touches from the back. I remember when he was playing for Juventus, when he just invited a header and there was just a touch from the back when he went down and a penalty was given. From there, people started to understand. Players also try to learn from the fact that a slight touch from behind in the area is just a foul. So Ronaldo ensured that he has to touch the ball first before the player will get in. So, touching the ball first, the player doesn't get the ball. Many will say there was a body contact rather than the legs down. But I believe there was a slight contact. On the leg of Ronaldo. So obviously it might be cheap.
What about
let's understand.
Up?
Exactly.
Was there any contact? Because many were saying, it seems Mohamed Salisu was like just going onto Ronaldo to knock or to just have a body contact.
Exactly. So I believe it is down rather than up.
So the judgment was made on the floor.
Judgment was made on the ground. Yeah. That is on the foot. The fact that Ronaldo gets the ball first, and when the player gets in the leg there, we all knew he doesn't get the ball.
But fans said he should go and check the monitor, pitch side monitor rather, or the VAR.
I accept that.
He was, even a retired Premier League referee, Mike Dean, said he should have go and check on the pitch side monitor I
accepted that. If suppose the referee went to check that one, I would not be surprised if the referee, cancelled the call for the penalty, because I believe there was a touch. But even Ronaldo's way of going, you will realize that Ronaldo have shown some exaggeration. He has even fly to the ground, so that action, I believe the referee
think that there is a kick.
Exactly, you will think that there is a kick, so he has exaggerated if there is a touch. So I believe if the referee was called to go and look at the monitor, the referee would have cancelled that call. So it is right like he said, the referee should have gone to the monitor to check. Yeah.
Penalty was given. Ronaldo scored. That was his 5th World Cup scoring campaign.
Remember, he said he wanted to be a checkmate to Messi in this year's World Cup. When he say checkmate, he always want to be compared to Lionel Messi. He always want to feel that people still understand that he and
either
Messi...
he's put ahead of Messi or he's closer to Messi.
Exactly. So he just want to tell the world that he and Messi are still the generation toppers of football right now. So I believe 5 consecutive World Cups, consecutive goals in the World Cup, great for him. But this one, many would not have credited it to him. It's a controversial goal for that matter. So we hope to see in his subsequent games, what are going to come for him. But
Ghana must experience an oldest player, get them level. That is Andre Ayew.
Yeah. This is a man who is evergreen. He's someone who sometimes I always say this man should have been compared to our Modou Barrow. Whenever I see
Seka Barrow.
Yes, Seka Barrow. Yeah. When he plays for the Gambia, I always see him like Ayew.
He always runs in the right direction.
Because the fact is that you will never recognize it from their language, their body language, that he is the oldest player in the team. Okay. You will not recognize that he's a senior player in the team.
Only an experienced player, and then you said, and a clever one can get that goal. The one he scored against
Absolutely, it's a tactical goal. It's a well tactical goal that he scored in that particular game. Many will be talking about Richarlison's goal, but I talk about in Africa here. The best goal to me is that particular goal that Ayew scored. And it's quite much touching, like you said. He is an experienced player.
He didn't give up on the chance.
But just like we were talking about Rigobert Song, the same thing to them also. After scoring that goal,
1-1,
the coach started to withdraw some of those players. And in fact, you can see before Ayew will even.
Many were even said, how many coaches do Ghana have? Too many people were on the touchline.
Exactly. You will not understand who is the coach. So I think all those things are things that we need to learn from. I think coaching needs some regimental. The processes. You need to know who is to talk to the players. There is always a proverb that too many cooks spoils the broth. When you have too many people to cook one food, everyone want to put in jimbo. You want to put in salt. Somebody want to put in jimbo. Somebody says it's not enough. The more jimbos you put in, the more salt you put in. At the end of the day, nobody can eat that food. So I believe that they should be given the ideas to the coach, no problem. But the coach and the assistant should be on the technical side to try to give instructions to the players. I think that's another problem.
Apart from like this guy, their former striker, that is the number 3 that missed that. Asamoah Gyan. He is the 2nd highest scorer in the World Cup for Ghana. 3 goals. Asamoah Gyan scored 6, 5.
I think that record...
Great record for him too. If people are talking about Ronaldo's 5 World Cup scoring campaign.
Africa also have another one to talk about.
Exactly. He became the 2nd best scorer or highest scorer for Ghana in the World Cup.
I think Ghana will never forget him. And I think they have a brilliant idea in making him head that particular team into the World Cup. Because he's right now leading the team from the tunnel. I believe the experience that he has, the commitment that is in him, will always try to give hope to the young ones to fight to the end. So even if they lose their first game, I cannot judge these other African teams as at now. I only have to wait to see their second games. How would they react into their second games? It doesn't matter which team come in front of them. But I believe if Ghana can get something from their second game, then Ghana and Senegal might be a surprise package for for Africa.
Thank you very much, Lamin Sane, for coming in along our studio, and thank you very much for giving us this wonderful analysis. So far, the World Cup, which player do you think will be the star performer of this 2022 FIFA World Cup? Or which player has impressed you most so far? But by the end of the tournament, who do you think people will be talking about him?
Well, I've seen so many star players in the World Cup right now, but I believe one that stands out most to me is perhaps the American player. That is it McKennie? I love the way he's doing things.
He plays for Juventus.
For America. He's a player who plays for Juventus. I think he's absolutely a great player to watch. And I believe if America, my only surprise is whether America could still make it. But if America could go further into the league, I believe, he is someone to be watched out. Another player to be watched is
2 point guard already. So they're playing Iran in their final game.
If they can beat Iran, it means they have 5 points.
What about Valencia, the captain?
And I think a game against Iran will be another tough encounter. because Iran will not just sit and watch America play on them. America will never defend, no matter what team they are playing. And secondly, we have to understand that right now, Kasim, you like it or not, politics is mixed into football. We knew very well that. America and Iran. These are two teams.
You're very right.
Exactly.
You're very right.
Americans and Iranians are never in good terms.
How will the atmosphere be?
So the atmosphere will be like that. The fans outside will feel that this is a battle outside in the field, not in fact on the footballing term. Yeah. And even the players themselves alone will also play to their tooth and nail to ensure that this is like a final, even if we are going home, but America will not beat us. Let us show to them that we can fight to the end, we can play to anyhow level. You know, America will be showing to them that anyway, no matter what comes, we'll have to go over Iran.
But don't you think in another way around also it can unite the two nations?
Exactly. That's why I say football can bring unity, because I know very well that no matter how political atmosphere between these two countries, when they come against each other, there will be handshake. The coaches will have to give the handshake. The players will have to give the handshake. The two national anthems will have to go up in the atmosphere, and that will be quite much touching. Wherever in this world, under one umbrella, have you ever gone and realized American national anthem sung, Iranian national anthem being sung on the other side? Football is the only tool that can do that, that can bring them under one umbrella. So I think it's another great move for them to be in the same group.
Thank you very much, Lamin Sane, for
it's a pleasure.
Coming along in our studio. This is LBD Sports with Kasim Oscar alongside Lamin FS Sane, this first edition of World Cup discussion here in our studio, Bakote, just a few minutes away from the Bakote shopping mall. Thank you very much. Till next time, subscribe and share our videos. Bye-bye. Love you all.